meeting is now recording. So I will take this adherent for the Employee Issues Forum on the 8th of November 2022. I've noticed that we've got Councillor Anderson, Brogan, Buchanan, Convery and Cowie present, as well as Councillor Loudon, Nelson and Robb. We have trade union representatives present are Jennifer Gaffney, Tony Slaven and Jerry Higgins. The meeting is quorate, so I'll pass you back to the chair.
Thanks, Helen.
Hi, sorry, I'm present as well. You haven't included my name, Shailene.
Sorry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shailene. Right, just carrying on with business. Agenda item 1, declaration of interests. Has anybody got any to declare? No, don't see any hand raised. Moving on to agenda item 2, that's the minute of the meeting of the Employee Issue Forum held on the 30th of August 2022, pages 3 to 6 in your pack. Can I ask somebody to move that minute as a correct record? Thanks, Jerry. Everybody agreed? Moving on to items for consideration. Agenda item 3, council. Sorry, I heard somebody there.
All right.
Sorry, are we recording the meeting? Yeah. Yeah, the meeting has been recorded. Moving on to agenda item 3, which is under the items for consideration. And it's the council-wide workforce monitoring, July to August 2022. And it's pages 7 to 28, and I'll ask Kay McVeigh to speak on this report.
Thank you, Chair. As you say, this is the council-wide workforce monitoring over the period of July and August. A very familiar report for members, because we generally will take this to committee and council as well. So in terms of the contents of this report, looking at section 4 around attendance statistics, we can see that the council's absence rate in August was 4.4%, and that's given us a projected figure of 6.1% for the year. In comparison with this time last year, we can see that psychological and respiratory conditions are the main reasons for absence, and we can see that the psychological conditions have increased slightly, 42 days over the period, but probably more of note across those categories would be the last one, stomach, bowel, blood and metabolic disorders, which have increased by 249 days. So that's generally a lot of little bugs that people might be experiencing. In terms of section 5, that takes you through our occupational health activity, and you can see 248 employees being referred for medical examination and 262 employees attending physiotherapy treatment. And I think on that bullet, I would just reflect that 71% of those employees were still at work while receiving their physio. So that's a very good support that enables people to remain in work. We also had 242 employees referred to the Employee Support Officer, much of a muchness in comparison with last year. Turning to section 6, which is accidents and incidents, we've got an increase in comparison with this time last year, and that predominantly is round about the minor accidents and incidents, and that remains an area where we're doing a fair bit of work, but there's a spread across the resources in terms of the increase that we can see. I would draw members' attention particularly to section 8, which is about our analysis of leavers. And I think I have been reporting over the piece that we can see an increase in labour turnover. So for this particular period, the labour turnover was sitting at 1.2%, but that's given us a projected figure of 5.4%. So in today's tight labour market, that does increase the number of vacancies that we're trying to fill against a period of time when we're finding it quite hard to fill the vacancies that we've got. Despite the tight labour market, we are recruiting, and you can see that in section 9. So we're just over 3,500 applicants for posts that we have, and you can see in the relevant appendix the breakdown of categories across there. So in this particular period, we've done well in respect of the disabled category, but again struggling in particular with the veterans. So that's something we're going to have a focus on over the near future. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any question, and the report is for noting. Thank you.
Thanks, Kay. Anybody get any questions?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jerry.
Yeah. The reason for the exit interview, what was the reason people gave for leaving? Because you say we're finding it hard to recruit, and yet we've lost 176 people, but it's no telling us when they've done the interviews why they were leaving.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Convery. We do have a good breakdown of why people are moving on. I mean, it's not like there's anything new or particular spikes in that. You know, people have maybe they've gone on because they've got a better job somewhere else, maybe more pay. But I think in addition to those that are exiting in that way, we're also seeing an exit in terms of earlier retirement. So kind of people deciding to retire earlier than they would have done previously. They maybe found it hard going over the past 3 years, as most people have. But anecdotally, we're also seeing an increase in people requesting flexible retirement, so maybe to work a bit less. But there's nothing particularly of note that is different from other years. It's just they have more opportunities to go elsewhere.
Chair, could I ask then that's put down in writing why people are leaving? Because we need to have an overview as to why this is happening, rather than a verbal update. Can we have it in writing?
Chair, I'm happy to produce something a bit more substantial round about the reasons for people leaving. Probably you wouldn't want to focus just on a couple of months, so we'll try and see if we can get something a bit more long term and bring a report back.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Convery. Thanks, Kay. Is that something that is possible? We do report back the reasons why people are leaving. Thank you. Councillor Loudon.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Kay, for going through that as well. My question was about 7.1, where it talks about appeals panels and the target for the time for hearing those. I would start by saying I know, having sat on a few now, I know how much work is put in by officers to get ready for appeals panels and how complex that could be. I see it says at the end of August we've still got there were 6 appeals panels pending at that time. I wondered if we could just get an update on how many we've got pending at the moment, how many are scheduled in, how many are still to be scheduled, and do we think that the target that we're hitting, that 74%, is going to improve in the near future? Thanks, Kay.
You happy to answer that?
Yes, certainly. I don't have the detail round about the appeals and when they're scheduled to hand. I would say the 74% of hearings refers to the disciplinary hearings rather than the appeals hearings. But I can certainly get an update in terms of how many appeals are pending and when they're scheduled in for. I think we did have a bit of a backlog at the start of the new administration, simply because we had that period without. We've also had the summer, which again causes a bit of a delay, but I'll get the detail about when they're scheduled. Thank you.
Thanks, Kay. Sorry for the complete failure in reading comprehension there, but appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Can I just bring Helen in, maybe?
If you're happy, Kay, as I clerk the appeals panel, I can help answer that if that helps, if that's okay. Yeah, because there's actually just 2 pending now. One scheduled in a couple of weeks' time, and the other one should be not long after that.
Thanks, Helen. Anybody else? Any questions? Councillor Anderson.
Just on 8.1, it's a wee bit sort of kind of embezzled at the first bit. Labour turnover. It's using information compiled for the resource and staff and watch information as at the 11th of June. I think it's on say the council's turnover figure for July to August 22. I'd have thought that would have been June's figure, or we would have had the staffing watch up to the end of August. The other point just underneath that, it says there's 15,173 employees in post. But when you go to Appendix 1, that is 16,488 or something like that. I'm not quite sure how these figures are compiled and what they're based on.
16,466.
Is that, what other one says 15,173? Oh.
Aye, no.
Can I ask
Right.
you have to answer that?
Hopefully I can unpick that for you. So one of those figures will be headcount and the other figure is full-time equivalent. So those are two different figures. And we do take the staffing watches only taken at certain periods in time. So that's why you might see June. So June, September, December, March are the staffing watch. It dates back to when government used to collect that information from every council across Scotland at set periods of time. Okay.
You all right with that, John?
Think about it.
Thanks. Moving on to agenda item 4, and it's the Social Work Resources Workforce Monitoring July to August 2022, on pages 29 to 36, and can I ask Eileen McPate to come in that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is the standard Social Work Resources Workforce Monitoring Report covering the period July to August 2022. Section 4.1 outlines the attendance statistics and the details are in Appendix 1. The absence rate for the resource for August was 7.5% compared to a council-wide figure of 4.4%. And that translates to a projected annual average for the resource of 8.1% compared to a council-wide figure of 6.1%. Moving on then, section 4.2 to 4.5, and all the details are in Appendix 2. And the main points are that during the period, there was 256 occupational health referrals, there was 4 disciplinary hearings, 2 grievances and 1 dignity at work issue raised. There was 26 accidents and incidents recorded during the period, and over the period there was 27 leavers, and of them 56% completed exit interviews. In terms of vacant posts, the details are in Appendix 2A, and there was 46 posts that became vacant, and of them managers have indicated that 45 will be filled. I should say that one manager had indicated that there was a post being removed from on the basis of it was savings, but it wasn't. It's been clarified actually. It's just a post that was attached to fixed term funding, which has now ended, just to clarify that. And I'm just referring members back to section 2.0 and asking that the workforce monitoring information for social work resources covering the period July to August 2022 be noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. Can open it up to any questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Convery.
Again, the analysis of the leavers, have a breakdown as to why they do the exit interview, why they're leaving.
That's something we can do, Kay.
Yeah, no problem.
Eileen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, 4.3 accidents and incident statistics, an increase of 18 when compared to last year. Now, I know quite a lot of folk are working from home, but in social work, they don't. They're actually out in the field. I'm just wondering why there's quite an increase in that, and information on that.
Again, in terms of the detail around that, that can be provided. I don't have that to hand, but I can certainly get you the detail in terms of the types of incidents that have been recorded during the period. Thanks.
Thanks, Eileen. Councillor Robb?
Yeah, it relates a wee bit this report and a wee bit the previous. Under like the manual workers have a higher absence rate. Just wondered what reasons are there? Is it more physically harder on the body? And just if you get any more information about why there's a higher absence rate.
I think particularly when you're looking at social work resources, yeah, there's a different type of demand in terms of what the workforce are undertaking. I think as well as that, you've got a different demographic. So because of that, there tends to be an older workforce, so we do tend to see a sort of higher absence rate overall for social work resources in comparison to the other resources. But that's not to say that the absences aren't being appropriately managed in line with our maximising attendance procedures.
Thanks, Eileen. Anybody else? No. Moving on to agenda item 5, which is a home care employability presentation. Can I ask Scott, who's joining us online, to come in on that?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. If you just allow me a second while I share a presentation which I would like to present to you today. So as I say, thanks very much, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you today. I'm the service manager for the care at home service, and thought it would be really helpful to come along today to provide members with an update in terms of what activity we're undertaking within the service to progress recruitment against what has already been highlighted as a very challenging labour market and a particularly difficult labour market within social care, which I'm sure this has been discussed at this forum previously, and I'm certainly aware it's been discussed at other committees. To give a bit of background and some kind of context in terms of care at home, the care at home service currently has an establishment in terms of its mainstream care at home service of 27,117 hours, and currently has vacancies equating to 787.5 hours. Members will also probably be aware that Social Work Committee agreed significant investment into the care at home service through the establishment of a Home First model. So in addition to the mainstream care at home establishment, we also have a new establishment within Home First of 4,543 hours. And we're currently working and progressing the development and the implementation of that service. But at this moment in time, we currently have vacancies of 3,661 hours. So that was really just about giving a bit of context in terms of the size and scale of the service. You probably don't need me to tell you this, but I'll reiterate it anyway, because I think it has been well discussed. But we're currently immersed in a very challenging recruitment market. We've got low unemployment, and there's particular challenges within the social care market, both in terms of competition within the market and also from other sectors, whether that be food and drink, whether that be retail or education. So we're in significant competition with other organisations and other partners. As already been highlighted under some of the kind of previous reports, within the service we have an ageing demographic. So people will know that from a care at home perspective, it's largely a female dominated staff group, and an ageing one at that. So we regularly deal with turnover, and turnovers are probably one of our largest challenges at the moment, and trying to keep pace with the turnover within the service. And I'll talk to you a wee bit more about that as we go on. But I think the real thing I wanted to do today is kind of really just to highlight and showcase some of the excellent work that's been done within the service in collaboration with partners from personnel and particularly the kind of PR, the corporate comms department. We embarked about a year ago on a significant care at home recruitment campaign, which has been developing over that time. And essentially, the kind of whole principle of the campaign is about refreshing, trying something different, not continuing to do the same thing on a constant basis, and trying to keep ahead of what we've been doing. Fundamentally to that, at the very beginning of the campaign, we took some decisions to look inwardly and to look at what our offering is as an employer. We know that increasingly people are looking at flexible options that suit them. The marketplace is changing, So in doing that, we revised our shift patterns completely, and implemented a whole new shift pattern in consultation with the care home workforce. And that has been in operation for probably the best part, fully in operation for the best part of about 6 months now. We also looked at the kind of offering we had in terms of hours. So in days gone by, we've largely had a fairly restricted offering in terms of the number of hours which people could be employed on, tend to be around about 35 hours or 21 hours. But recognising, you know, the need to attract people into more flexible options, we've extended that quite considerably. You know, new recruits or any member of staff can work for as little as 12 hours a week, and there's a range of different options available right through to 35 hours a week, very much intended about trying to attract people into the service. I'm sure if you'll have already have seen it, but a lot of the work that we've done has very heavily focused around social media. Social media has provided the greatest returns for us in terms of the campaign, both in terms of reposting adverts as they come out, but also in terms of trying to take a more targeted approach. And I'll kind of stop here just for 1 second, so I always take the opportunity for any forum I get into. But if you do see posts coming from either South Lanarkshire Council or from NHS Lanarkshire about care at home recruitment, I'd be really, really grateful if you wouldn't mind reposting. Obviously, the further the reach we get in terms of any of those posts, the better chance we've got attracting people into the service. So I always like to be opportunistic in relation to that. Some of what we've done in relation to social media, in addition to the kind of standard posts around reposting what's on My Job Scotland, have been taking an opportunity to really kind of try and showcase the work of our staff. So we've had a number of case studies which have focused on staff from various areas of South Lanarkshire, the work that they do, what they enjoy about the role. And in addition to that, we've also had some case studies about individuals who receive our services, what makes it important to them, what the outcomes have been for them, and what they look for in a member of staff who would be supporting them. And they were very, very successful in terms of getting significant interest, and we've seen a real spike in terms of applications coming into the service at that point, so really helpful. But it's not just about one thing, and you'll see from this slide, there's a whole range of different elements of activity that we've taken forward. We've engaged very heavily with the Job Centre. We've taken part in a whole range of recruitment fairs throughout South Lanarkshire. And in addition to that, the council, through the employability team, a couple of months back now, held a series of really successful events in locations throughout South Lanarkshire, and we attended all of those, and we've been in discussions with Kay and others about the refresh of those. So it worked really well, and we're keen to continue that, and I know that there's plans in place for further fairs to take place in the future. We've also looked to exploit opportunities in terms of further education. Obviously, we have, from a social care perspective, a significant number of students going through either health or social care qualifications and courses every year. So we've been linking with both the colleges within South Lanarkshire and North Lanarkshire, and also some of the universities, to try and exploit opportunities around speaking to students, looking at, offering them some of the kind of flexible options we've got. Really good opportunity to get some experience of working within the sector, really helpful in terms of your CV, and we'll continue to do that work going forward. We've worked really closely with staff from the Council's employability team, and have explored and continue to explore a potential opportunity to recruit people who have been long-term unemployed, and to date I think we've probably brought about 10 individuals into the service, and that's been really successful, and again we'll continue to do those types of things. We have, you've possibly seen, but we've got pop-up banners peppered across South Lanarkshire and key council and South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture buildings, very clearly where there's a throughfoot of members of the public to try and encourage them to think about applying for a post. And we've had bus advertising, both in terms of the sides and backs of buses, and also the insides of buses. to try and see if we can try and encourage people to come along into South Lanarkshire. Some of the things which we've done more recently have been using other types of media. So we had a series of 6 videos created which showcased Callum and Jill, who are home carers within East Kilbride and the Clydesdale area, and really very short, snappy videos which really got a kind of sense of what they felt about the job. We've been posting them very heavily on South Lanarkshire social media, and also our partners in NHS Lanarkshire have been posting that too. I'd like to take a couple of minutes, if you don't mind. There's 6 videos, but I'd like to show you 2 of them just to give you a kind of sense of some of the work that we have been doing, and hopefully this will work.
It wasn't a natural progression into starting a new job or helping out, because it was just this, it was surreal, and I think that's what makes it more special that I decided to stay, because you just feel as if you've joined at a time when it's been like a completely different world, but then on the other hand you got to see the best of people, because the carers were out doing it. They did get up every morning and go to their work. Morning, well. At times there was this big question of, will I get it today, will I take it home to my family? But they still got up in the morning and they still went and they still done it, and I just think that's, I just seen them as, that seems stupid, but not superheroes as such, but just I was such in awe of them that they'd done that they put themselves on the line every day because they were needed.
That was 12 years I was taxing, modern taxi. You can't drive a taxi without being able to talk to people. And 75% of this job is getting into people that are lonely. I may be the only person they're going to see all day, so they want to talk.
Morning Betty, it's Callum.
Hi, morning.
They've all led lives, different generations, and they've all got stories to tell. So I'm quite happy to get in there and chat away with them while I'm doing my work. And if I'm coming away and they've got a smile on their face, it makes my job a lot easier. It's all down to trust as well. You've got to gain the client's trust, and once you've got that trust, then it's so much easier to do the job. Some people need that hand to get up and then help them in the shower, dress them, the whole aspect of it, make their breakfast, help them with their medication. As I say, I get a buzz out of it. I get self-satisfaction knowing that I'm helping them.
That's just an example of, as I say, the series of 6 videos that we've launched. Hopefully it gives you a kind of sense of the kind of the real life impact that staff have on people, what they feel about the job. You'll see that we've tried to focus quite heavily on the fact that you don't have to previously have had experience in care, that as a service we'll support you, we'll provide full training, we'll give you opportunities to secure your qualification in social care as well. So really kind of trying to recognise that the market is not large. There's lots of different employers fishing from the same pond, and really trying to extend the net and try and see if we can attract others into the service. The latest part of the campaign started yesterday. So we have launched yesterday the latest part of the radio campaign, which will run for 2 weeks on Radio Clyde. And then starting on the 9th of January, there'll be a 4-week campaign which will commence on Smooth and Heart Radio. So we really want to try and make sure that we got extended coverage. Also recognise that we're soon to go into a kind of period where recruitment interest tends to dwindle. People start to focus around the Christmas period, and but then come back following on from that, thinking about a change of direction. So we wanted to make sure we had appropriate coverage right throughout. And to support that, we've also created a landing page on the council's internet site, which will basically direct new candidates to that. It will provide them some further information about the post, the pay, the kind of hours and the kind of shift patterns that are on offer, and a wee bit of information about what we're doing and what we can do to help people around training and support with qualifications. So again, I'd like you to just hear the advert which started on Radio Clyde yesterday.
At South Lanarkshire Health and Social Care Partnership, we value what our Care at Home team does for our community. We're recruiting home carers now, with a starting salary of at least £12.76 per hour, generous annual leave and public holidays, flexible working arrangements, staff discounts, career opportunities and more. Experience would be an advantage, but training will be provided and we'll support you to get a recognised qualification. Go to southlanarkshire.gov.uk/homecarer jobs. At South Lanarkshire Health and Social Care.
There was always a danger I was going to do that. So again, you'll appreciate within a 30-second advert, you're limited to what you can say, but we've tried to cram in the really salient points, the really bits that we think will hit and kind of grab attention of people. So fingers crossed that goes well. It was certainly to date, I think it's only been 2 days. We've had 150 hits on the council's internet site and 10 applications into that new the new advert that was just released to support it. So fingers crossed that will go well and help us along. As always, okay, you've done lots of really good work around the recruitment campaign, but what's the impact? And the impact of the significant work which has been done across a number of departments over the last year is that we've recruited almost 6,000 hours in the last year. That's roughly around 200 staff. We have inductions taking place every 4 weeks. We currently have 378 hours. I always talk in hours because that's our establishment as opposed to people, but 378 hours that are scheduled to start on the 21st of November. That's a fluid number and all these numbers will change on a day-to-day basis. At this moment in time, we've got 35 hours scheduled to start on the 5th of December, but that will again increase. My colleagues in personnel are currently working through 511 hours where we've offered provisional posts and we're just undertaking the recruitment checks. We've got 24 candidates currently being interviewed and 21 at shortly. And again, this doesn't include anything from the kind of recruitment campaign in terms of the radio. So we hope to see that increasing over the kind of the days and weeks ahead. But really just a kind of an update in terms of what we're doing in terms of the service, and happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Scott, for your excellent presentation. I've certainly seen myself a lot of the stuff on social media and I have been sharing it. I've also been hearing in about my own area, a lot of the girls that I know leaving the private sector and coming on to council, which is good. So yeah, thanks very much. And I'll open up to questions. Councillor Loudon.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks for going through that, Scott. Yeah, I mean, I've seen things like the social media before and the pop-up banners and so on. I thought it was really interesting to hear about other types of media, and I thought the videos were great. The radio advertising is actually something that I was going to ask if we considered, so I'm pleased to hear that's going ahead. I just wondered if we'd looked at going sort of hyper-local with that as well. I was thinking about Camglen Radio, for example, or Lanarkshire Radio. It's obviously a smaller audience, but it's got the advantage maybe of being a different audience. You know, I know Camglen in particular have done a lot of work to build up quite a loyal local listenership, which might be another thing that we could tap into at some point. Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think that's helpful. I mean, certainly, as I said earlier on, the campaign continues to evolve. So we're always looking for something different to do. And I'll certainly be mindful of those options that you've given us. We can discuss it with colleagues in comms. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Loudon. Anybody else? Councillor Convery.
Can we have a copy of the slides?
Good night, Jerry.
Scott, it's a good presentation. Can we have a copy of the slides?
Not a problem, Councillor Convery. Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else? Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I just wondered, Scott, quite often when it comes time for recruitment for the colleges and things like that, they have stalls in the shopping centres where you sign up more or less there and then and get recruited. I'm just wondering if that's something else you'd maybe consider, if it's worthwhile.
It's actually something we have considered, to be honest with you. To date, we've explored it in quite a bit of detail, because we're thinking particularly around East Kilbride, if I'm being honest with you. That's probably one of our hardest to recruit areas. But what we've found, we've done a bit of kind of research, and actually the footfall has dropped dramatically. So it's certainly not something I'm ruling out. But at this moment in time, we thought we would try something different first. But it's certainly one of the ones that's on the agenda, Councillor.
Back in, John. Used to be in a town centre Saturday and Sunday, and the footfall was sky high. There's a special thing on with kids' comics, and all the mums and dads and grands and grandpas were taking their kids down to that. So it's maybe something when they've got an event on in the town centre that's going to attract people. What, is Santa Claus coming?
Absolutely.
It might be. I know Santa Claus and getting a job might not go hand in hand. It might work though.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going to say. In the run up to Christmas, you might get increased footfall at East Kilbride.
Yeah, absolutely. And Santa Claus has the appropriate skills. I'd be more than happy to interview him as well.
John is more than welcome to do Santa.
I think I'll need to put on a few pounds for that, but I'll have a go at it over Christmas.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Scott, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Right. Anybody else? I can't see any hands up online. Moving on to agenda item 6, urgent business, which there is none. So I would just like to thank everybody for their attendance today. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Aye.